Hi and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of January 25, 2021. In terms of the stock market directions, I believe that the market will go down Monday through Wednesday. Then I think there's a slight chance of it reversing back to up on Thursday. And I think Friday, yet again, we will see another reversal to down. In any case, Thursday the 28th to me stands out like the day that is the most significant this week, this upcoming week, as well as significant, I would say, even for the entire month of January. And on Thursday, regardless of the direction, we will likely see really major market swings and also potentially a lot of important announcements, be it about financial policies, some sort of legal issues or decisions regarding immigration, for example, as well as there may be increased probability of various industrial disasters, extreme weather events, earthquakes, and accidents. So to run through the individual days of the week, Monday and Tuesday, January 26, 25, 26, I think we'll see increased focus on all kinds of financial topics, so like financial policies, rates, currencies, including cryptocurrencies, earnings, losses, etc. And the news on Monday and Tuesday may be along the lines of something that's slightly surprising and perhaps stressful, again, because of this element of the unknown and of the surprise. So perhaps performance is reported to be lower than expected. Maybe some leader unexpectedly steps down and or growth that has been expected. Suddenly there's a delay or slowdown in some developments, or some service that relies on, say, internet, like an online retailer, social media platform, experiences some hiccups. And on a higher level, the reason for such problems may be that there's some sort of a delay or problems with the data processing, whether some network is going down or literally on the social media some information is being misrepresented. Of course, that wouldn't be the first time, but something on a larger scale where data doesn't flow sort of properly, or there's a service outage, or there is some misinformation being spread. So perhaps like there's a tweet and there's some sort of a false speculation in the tweet, but it still is picked up by the investors and leads to some fluctuations in the market because of, based on this misinformation. And the areas that may be affected the most would be airlines, airspace, electric cars, IT, telecoms, any sort of online retailers, even banks, perhaps anything that's involved in basically digital processing of data or information, or finance, over the internet or online or digitally in some way. As I mentioned, and for these companies, these sort of, I guess, the areas represented by, like I said, IT, airlines, etc. There may also be surprising or unexpected news about leadership, such as the leader unexpectedly steps down, or leader, if say some new leader was going to be elected and a surprising candidate comes up, and or leadership announces some unexpected plans in terms of, cutting down the number of locations or relocating something, or just a new surprising direction of where they're going to take their business next. For sort of the entire week, almost the 24th, I would say, even starting the 24th, which is Sunday, of course, through the 31st of January, but especially 24th through the 28th, we may expect increased news about areas like related to Neptune, basically, which is like oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, drugs, poisons, navy, excessive precipitation, also places of worship, beverages, music, movies, and things of that nature, like also pollution. And the news there may be either stressful or involve some sort of accident, like a maritime accident. And again, as I mentioned, I think last week also, the 28th particularly looks kind of stressful to me. It could be something like, say, floods, or an earthquake that triggers a tsunami, or some other problems that involve some sort of imbalance. Maybe, say, a ship is being loaded with cargo and there's an imbalance and some cargo is lost to sea, or or a boat that's capsizes because it's overloaded, something along those lines. We did have some news, I guess, out of Chile that there was a there was a tsunami warning, but instead of limiting, I guess, the warning to just the affected area, which is like Antarctic or something like that, I guess in erroneously the warning was issued for the entire country. So it was interesting. Again, luckily, I think there's no major damage done through that. However, this upcoming week, especially around the 28th, I would expect there could be more events similar to that. Let's see, for the US, the whole period from, I would say, around the 25th of January and through early March looks to be significant in terms of focus on finance, financial policies, earnings, taxes, and those particular would involve companies that are related to IT, telecommunications, airspace, electric cars, social media, online retailers, high-tech sort of electronics, gadgets, all of that stuff, as well as actual banks and financial institutions. And the topics may have to do with either financial policies, rates, even taxes, or even insurance, and of course it might affect currencies, including cryptocurrencies, any sort of financial policies. But it could also involve specifically either earnings or losses, and again, particularly the focus could be on taxes or some sort of tariffs, so some sort of regulation. And we may hear about either major sort of surprising or I guess larger than usual in scale potentially losses or even bankruptcies, or some announcements where perhaps taxes are too high and a company can't, is not able to pay what they owe, and or there may be some issues related to leaders either of those companies or just generally important CEOs, politicians, actors. Then again, there may be news in the news more than usual due to again some sort of financial issues. And this week, the dates that are particularly significant for potential of such events would be 25th through the 28th. But as I said, the entire energy is going to be with us through early March. And what it could be, to give you an example, maybe there's a discussion of, say, if it's an individual, could be a focus on the individual's earnings, or again losses, taxes. Have they paid taxes? Maybe they've accumulated. They may be investigated again for their taxes that they didn't pay, or something along the lines of the wealth or assets they have previously accumulated, or maybe their strategy in investing that they had been using for a while, and now things are changing somehow drastically for them. So maybe a prominent investor suddenly loses a large sum of money, or a famous actor or some singer or something has not been paying taxes, and now it's in the news and they're being investigated for that. Or perhaps some again prominent investor completely revamps their portfolio, and things could be fairly drastic, unexpected, and sudden. So sudden loss of wealth, tax problems, also even health concerns, loss of freedom, of their rights, or being expelled from some organization. And this could again apply also to actual companies. So if, say, a company or an entity is a part of some larger organization, they may also be, similarly expelled or suffer, poor health. Being a company, it could be something, again, excessive losses or problems with taxes. And again, companies that related to IT, airspace, airlines, most likely will be affected more than others. And there also may be some news about such either individuals or entities engaging in some disruptive or unusual or risky sort of behaviors. So perhaps some risky investments or irresponsible behavior, such as not paying their taxes, for example. And at this time, end of January through early March, there may be some backlash or consequences. If it's a company that was engaging in some risky investments and which led to large losses, for example, there may be as a backlash, some increased sort of stricter financial regulations on them, and or maybe a company may announce that they had suffered large losses due to the fact that they couldn't adapt to this high pace of kind of changes, and they were not sufficiently prepared, to function in this digital world, so to speak. So they can't really do things online as they should. Or if, there's a drop in travel due to the pandemic, that some airline was not able to cope with that, decreased demand or something along those lines. So let's see. So for US, also the dates of 27 and 28 of January stand out as important dates where there may be generally increased focus on communication and transportation businesses, as well as retail sales, contracts, agreements. So there could be like news about a large deal or sale, acquisition, for example, or just news about, retail sales of particular products, again, related to communication, transportation, such as, say, phones, cars. And there could be associated adjustments in the value of a company related to this, field. So again, the car manufacturer or, say, online retailer or social media platform. And when I say adjusted, I'm thinking more of a drop. So 27, 28 of January may see news about company, again, in the communication transportation business, where either they're engaged in some sort of, say, large sale or acquisition, or the news comes out about like retail sales and perhaps things are not doing so well, and so their value drops. Let's see, the 28th, as I mentioned before, most likely the most important day of this week, if not of the entire month, both in terms of just increased kind of risk of various, like, say, mudslides, earthquakes, excessive and extreme weather, excessive winds, precipitation, and also there may be really strong market moves regardless of the market direction. I think market may go down at that time, while I think gold may actually go up on the 28th and potentially even on the 29th as well. But either way, on the 28th, we may see really large market moves, and it will likely be a reversal in the direction from Wednesday, whatever that direction may be for that given entity. And that could be because there may be some announcements on the 28th about, say, a contract is finalized, or if there's a pending resolution or a law that's awaiting to be signed. On the 28th is when that final, dot is being drawn, and signatures placed, and things are legally perhaps take action, or legally are enforced and finalized. So there may be some announcements about things. Okay, now it's real, and therefore there's a reaction in the market, and basically busy news day. And specifically the announcements, which could come out on the 28th as well as on the 29th, may especially relate to, again, finance, earnings, financial policies, rates, taxes, tariffs, as well as currency values, including cryptocurrencies, and also about debt accumulated by governments. And there may also be some concerns associated with sort of some hidden, money or hidden financial, manipulations, and this could be by governments or by large corporations. So there may be concerns that, an entity is trying to hide losses, or its financial manipulations are exposed. And let's see, there may also be some changes, again, all of that on one day, about restructuring of some larger organizations, be it a political party or, say, a multinational organization, maybe a country, or an entity is expelled, or some sort of conditions onto which somebody can be admitted changes. So basically some restructuring, some changes into basically who is in, who is out, and who is a friend, who is a foe, so to speak. So maybe international trade organization, either rules change, or like import, export tariffs, or just, again, the policies may change, or it could relate to, say, workers' unions. So basically organizations of either individual, persons, or of companies, or of even countries. And let's see, and other kind of news that may also begin on the 28th and through, I would say, the 31st is we may hear about various either new laws or lawsuits, some sort of judgments, legal issues, as well as immigration and long-distance shipment and transportation. And in those areas, there may be a lot of fighting and sort of, I guess, heated debates and discussions over these new policies or over decisions or new laws. And those may involve basically two sides, where one side is really arguing for like the freedom, the equality, and the need to basically make sure to protect those and ensure that everybody's treated equally and there's freedom for something or someone. And there will be another party that kind of does not, by party I don't mean political party, just another force and not entities, I guess, another side that will be arguing, oh, but we need to take things slowly because it's too risky, this is too radical, and we need to be concerned with financial impact, like who's going to pay for it, or will there be, associated financial loss. So those could be the two sort of big, I guess, forces at play here, and that's for the 28th through the 31st of January. And so basically there could be these two sides arguing, and one side will try to slow things down, be concerned about finance, but because they're concerned about finance or earnings or losses, and another side would be pushing for kind of fast-paced radical changes, but again in the name of like making sure that things are equal, rights are protected and things are not stifled unnecessarily, and the progress basically can continue. Let's see. And then lastly, as I mentioned already briefly, 28th through the 31st, but especially the 28th, may see also fluctuations in the price of gold, and I'm guessing also silver, but especially gold. And my thinking is that the 28th will see gold go up. At the very minimum, it will be, I think, a reversal from the Wednesday, but I think up on the 28th. And this could be, yet again, related to some financial policy announcements out of the US, or some concerns about earnings, or because of some legal decisions being announced, because, again, related to perhaps international trade, or because of some announcements about some sales or contracts. And again, I'm not exactly sure that necessarily gold will go up on the 28th, but I think we will hear increased news, and that may affect gold prices, especially on the 28th, but through about the 31st of January. And then generally speaking, this week we will have this fairly strong influence of Saturn squaring Uranus, which will be with us, I would say, through even November of next year, but it will be strong this month. And this is sort of this, I would say, conflict between this, force or ideology that will push for kind of more fast-paced radical changes, and the energy that of Saturn that usually would want to see things implemented very slowly, carefully, with a lot of checks and breaks. At the same time, when I looked at previously what would happen in terms of the stock market, for example, under similar aspects, usually it does coincide with announcements of large financial losses by companies, especially companies that somehow are, connected to like internet or doing something digitally. And it's those companies who haven't been able to adjust quickly enough to these fast-paced kind of demanding, I guess, technical or technological advancements weren't implemented fast enough, or they haven't adapted to, fast-paced environment. As I mentioned before, maybe airline that hasn't adapted to like changes in the travel patterns, due to COVID, or they haven't implemented some online sales, or able to basically do business online efficiently enough. And those are the companies that at this time, during the Saturn and Uranus square, that would suffer losses the most. Let's see, then generally speaking, early January through early February, is a tense time with just a variety of kind of somewhat dangerous transits where we have just a lot of tensions. And of course we had this, troop accumulation in Washington, D.C. to kind of prevent some of the riots and protests, etc. But that kind of uneasy energy will stay with us through early February, and globally it may also coincide with, again, increased either situations that are somewhat dangerous or risky or involve accidents or extreme weather events. We already unfortunately did have situations where we have a plane in Indonesia crash, but through February, early February, rather, this influence will still be with us. And the 28th, unfortunately, is, I would say, looks pretty dangerous in that sense. So definitely I would not be engaging in any risky activities or avoid kind of, boarding an overcrowded boat and things like that at this time. Let's see. And there could be also other events along the lines of like explosions, fires, and I'd say this last week was maybe the worst in that sense. However, I would still, again, try to stay away from any sort of dangerous places or drive extra carefully. And in the future, I guess in the upcoming months, we will have another sort of time of increased tensions where we will have kind of a more tight square between Uranus and Saturn, but also it will be joined by Mars, and it will be the end of June, early July, where again, that would be another sort of time similar in energy that was around inauguration of US president around the 20th. And again, in the past, a similar type of transits that will occur end of June, early July corresponded with large like fires or explosions or some actual fireworks, disaster. And that's also interesting, and that's globally. However, it's interesting that this is also the time that, of course, we would have some fireworks, most likely in the US for the 4th of July. And of course, it's summer, things are heating up in general, just weather-wise. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And that's, I guess, a little glance into the future. And for China, worth mentioning, the time period from, I would say, mid-December through the end of January is a time where definitely we may expect, and I think there already were several announcements, but there may be a focus on new major kind of beginnings for the country, and especially like large-scale projects that may take some time, perhaps decades to implement, but it's a really large like new direction, grand plans, especially related to IT, airspace, grand projects, maybe high-tech networks, power plants. And I did see, like, for example, this last week, there were some announcements about like a new high-speed train. So anything that's really like advanced. And I think it was the week before that, there were some advancements in terms of like the super fast computing. And so definitely this is the week. So whatever the news that come out of China or comes out of China this through, I'd say, the end of January, those would be the projects that will likely, will be with us for some decades, and they will likely end up being extremely successful for China and something that will be implemented again, perhaps over a long time, but will be leading to expansion of, economy and possibilities, and so very like successful opportunities for China. And also through the end of January, there may be increased focus in sort of on the news coming out of China, where on the participation of various organizations such as like APEC, or influencing other countries that again are being basically either changing their status as a member of various international organizations or changing how the influence is being spread, or basically some sort of change in terms of like the status of as a country who is a part of some large organization. And this could be more than one organization, but it could be getting into new organization, creating new organizations, changing again its status, but again in some sort of positive, more assertive manner. And that also is something that would be significant for some decades to come. This is a time where this is a new energy, and this is a new way, of kind of sort of positioning the country in, again, in some sort of a larger organization, and this will be a new sort of a spiral, new beginning of some new cycle. And I mentioned this last week because from about the 15th through the 27th of January for China, again, this is a time where there may be some positive kind of news about leadership, alliances, and partnerships. So by positive, I mean there may be increased news about some sort of new leaders who are popular, or if there's a maybe a trade agreement or some partnership agreement that's being sort of in the works. It may go through about, say, the 27th, so early this week, and things will likely go smoother than expected when it comes to various like sales or discussions, and especially again for projects related to like IT, electric cars, airspace, power generations, batteries, electricity, etc. And lastly, from about November 2020 through February 2021, we may expect increased focus on, generally speaking, as a background influence on the news related to various Neptunian areas. This includes specifically oil and gas, so oil and gas prices. And of course, we had in the US with the new Biden administration, a variety of new policies where I guess announced what is the executive orders that specifically affect the oil and gas industry. And we can expect continuing sort of focus on those areas through February, and later in the year there will be two more times where I wouldn't say similar, but again, this is a global influence, but of course it affects US and other countries as well, where around April, I'd say especially April 8th through the 11th, and then September, and especially early September, like the 1st through the 3rd, there may be increased focus on oil, where maybe there's some arguments about, say, oil value, or there may be some, stand-ups. There may be some skirmishes or some fighting among the countries that, say, are oil producers, and or just there may be some, perhaps, fires or some heated discussions that are either involving countries where oil is produced, or that may be involved in oil, say, transportation or storage, or there could be accidents involving, say, an oil spill, or leaking pipe or something like that, or some arguments about pipelines or how oil is transported. And of course, this could be oil, gas, as well as any sort of chemicals, like petrochemicals of any sort. And of course, at the same time, those would be the other Neptunian areas may also be in the news at the same time. So perhaps, again, pharmaceuticals, including, say, vaccines, of course, but any other pharmaceuticals as well. There could be arguments, again, around the same time. So like mid-April and early September about, say, value of various pharmaceuticals, various chemicals, accidents relating to pollution of say, even with chemicals, or some concerns about infectious diseases, or concerns about efficiency of a particular medicine, or concerns about the price of various medications, or concerns about, again, with the heat kind of coming in. This could be a heated discussion, or it could be really literally something that's heating up excessively. So if, for example, vaccine is supposed to be transported in a cold, container, there's a problem where it has been heated excessively and becomes not invalid, but rather ineffective. Or there could be like I said, the leaking pipeline somewhere, like a leaking gas line, and it leads to fire, for example, and that is the energy that is going to be significant throughout, say, February as this is general background influence, and again pick up in mid-April, early to mid-April, and early September. So that's just like this little background overview and little preview of what's coming up in the future. Other than that, this looks like a slightly, I'd say, less stressful week perhaps, except for the, I would say, 28th, where I would definitely look for various important announcements, and definitely keep, stay safe, and not overreact to any situations around you, because this is going to be a day of increased tensions, generally speaking. Other than that, I think things are looking great, and I hope you're enjoying a wonderful, safe week, and I'll catch you all guys later. See you next time. Bye.